Good evening. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, March 11. If you are watching live on Monday, March 11, we invite you to call in if you have any comments or questions. The call-in number is 769-1677. Our next work session is a week from today, Monday, March 18 at 7 p.m. And our next regular meeting is the annual organizational meeting, which takes place Monday, April 1 at 7 p.m., followed by a regular meeting to begin at 7:30. A couple of announcements to make. The first is that we have begun in earnest the board's part of the work on the budget process. Patty Dwyer in our finance department and all of our department heads have been at work on this for the last couple of months. Our fiscal year begins June 1. We need to adopt our budget by law by the end of April, and we'll be presenting a draft budget, posting a draft budget in the next couple of weeks. What day will that be, Patty?
The 20th. It'll be
Okay, so
online by the 20th.
we'll be posting a draft budget online by March 20th. That'll be up on our website at pleasantville-ny.gov. That's a draft budget, and what's going on right now, and indeed has begun this week, is that each of us singly and in some cases for larger departments in teams are going out with the draft budget to each of the department heads and working through the budget line by line, both to understand what's in there and to try to find ways to do more with less. So we'll be at work on that over the next several weeks. The draft budget will be published March 20th at pleasantville-ny.gov. We will have a budget presentation here on April 8th. Patty?
April 8th.
April 8th.
Public hearing.
A public hearing on the budget, and then can continue to tinker with that budget up until the point at which we adopt it, which again by law has to happen before the end of April. So lots more to be said about the budget as we work through it, but we'll have a lot more detail about it when we post it on March 20th. A couple of other random mentions. Our farm market continues to be a great success at its winter indoor location at the Pleasantville Middle School every Saturday, 9 to 1. Going along great. And I am also happy to report that a couple of weeks ago I participated in a ribbon cutting ceremony at a new not-for-profit, which is ARC Stages, which is in the warehouses at the end of Wheeler Avenue behind Scarborough and Tweed. A big section of one of those large warehouses, which used to be a light industrial site, has been renovated and is in the process of further renovation as a home for ARC Stages, which is an organization that's the joining of the former Chappaqua Drama Group and Little Village Playhouse, which used to be on Memorial Plaza in the building under Starbucks. So ARC Stages is a new not-for-profit. They will be presenting not only a lot of programs and educational programs of the sort that Little Village Playhouse has always done, but also envisions at the end of a fundraising campaign a legitimate theater. So when all of that is complete, Wheeler Avenue will truly be the Avenue of the Stars, with the Burns Film Center on one end and ARC Stages presenting onstage live theater at the other. So an exciting project for the village, and congratulations to them. Anybody else have anything to add to that list?
Rotary has the Westchester Wine Experience, which is March 23rd from 1 to 4 at Pace University. It's a great event, and this year the monies are being earmarked for Hurricane Sandy efforts. So anybody who'd like to come, you can go to the website, which is westchesterwineexperience.org. And also, Peter, don't we have that unscripted at the Burns, the 21st?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me about that. The Burns Film Center is putting together a Voices of Pleasantville event, which is going to include the showing of 3 movies that high school students have made about Pleasantville figures, including one about Karsten Johnson, one about Will Shorts and the Table Tennis Center, and the last about another Pleasantville resident. That's going to be taking place at the Burns Film Center on Thursday, March 21 at 7 p.m. When we have the final information, we'll post that on our website at pleasantville-ny.gov and also circulate it around to all the various mailing lists, email lists that all of us are on, and would encourage any and all to forward that around as well. It's going to be a really nice evening and a good occasion to learn more about some of the interesting people in Pleasantville, and also to honor the good work done by the high school students who created these movies. So
And then also the play, the high school play. Is that open next week, Shane?
it opened this week.
Oh, it opens this week,
Yeah,
okay.
it
Okay,
ran
this week
on
and next week.
Ran Friday.
on
Oh,
Friday,
okay.
Saturday, and Sunday, and next week on Friday night and Saturday night. So tickets for that are going fast and are available at phsplay.org. So mark your calendars. As I mentioned in the past, Pleasantville Day is coming up. That is on, I had it open here, that is on Saturday, May 18. And the fire department parade is going to be in
30th?
in the
31st.
31st of May. So, all right.
Bring your umbrella.
All right, you said that for good luck. Let's go to the resolutions. Colleen, number 44.
Resolved that pre-check register dated March 11, 2013, covering check number 74776 through 74932 has been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below, coming from the general fund, the special purpose fund, the water fund, the refuse fund, the pool fund, and trust and agency, $200,861.68.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions about the check register?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mindy, number 45.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, January 25th, 2013, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions?
No.
Patty, I'm just reminded by this, it included the comment that I made about the broken door to the police department that was broken during Hurricane Sandy. To remind everybody, it's a hinge door that gets caught by the wind. It got quite badly damaged during Hurricane Sandy, and the reason for the delay in repairing it is to replace it instead of a hinge door, but instead with a sliding door. So are we any closer to that getting done?
It's on order. It's just
Okay.
a matter of it being manufactured now.
All right, so could we put the afterburners on that? That would be great. So, thanks. All in favor? Aye. Motion approved. 46.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from the Community Scholarship Fund to hold their annual 5K run walk on May 18th, 2013, as detailed in their letter dated February 25th, 2013.
Is there a second?
Second.
Community Scholarship Fund has done this event for many, many years as the kickoff for the morning of Pleasantville Day. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 47. Colleen.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the surplus and sale of the following village equipment. As noted in the record, it's about 15 different items valued from $25 up to about $10,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
The biggest item there is that we are surplusing a 1989 Mack garbage truck, and we're hopeful of getting between $8,000 and $10,000 for it. But I want to thank Jeff Econom, our Superintendent for Public Works, for having done a good job for us in identifying equipment that we can gain some value from that we no longer need, and in particular in finding a buyer who will pay us for 2 old engines that drive water pumps that haven't been used for many, many years, that will not only put them to good use, but also clear some space that we have other plans for. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Me, right?
48, yes.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby institutes no parking every Saturday from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the months of June, July, August, September, October, November, and the first Saturday in December as follows. Memorial Plaza parking lot, both sides from the gazebo to the end of the parking lot, the northerly direction, that's towards the monuments. And parking meters numbers 132, 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37. This resolution authorizes the police department to tow all the vehicles in violation of this temporary parking.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is the same as the resolution we've had in the past?
Yes.
Same circumstances for the
And
farm
this is for
market?
the farmer's market, and these new meters where not the cut-through, the turn lane that goes right in front of the monuments will now have some vendors in it, so we had to push back some of the parking there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 49.
Whereas the state legislature and the governor enacted legislation that establishes a property tax cap on the amount that a local government's property tax levy can increase each year, and whereas under this law, the total amount to be raised through property taxes charged on the municipality's taxable assessed value of property will be capped at 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less, with some exceptions. And whereas state legislation provides for local governments to override the cap to protect from unforeseen financial circumstances, and whereas state legislation requires that in the event that an override is necessary, the law enabling it must already have been adopted by the Board of Trustees prior to the adoption of the current year's budget. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village clerk to notice a public hearing for Monday, April 8th, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. To hear comments as it pertains to a local law overriding the property tax cap.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I want to be completely crystal clear about this. We are looking at a draft budget at the moment that I believe will allow us to stay within the property tax cap. If I were a betting man, I would say we do not expect to exceed the property tax cap. The reason for this notice of public hearing is that the requirements are such for notice in advance and posting in the newspaper for a public hearing on a proposed local law that it makes sense for us to do this just in case. So just to be clear, we do not at the moment anticipate breaking the tax cap, and indeed had a spirited discussion about whether we should even post a public hearing. But the reality is, as I think all of us are probably aware from previous discussions, and you'll be aware when we go over the budget in detail, the 2% tax cap presents a number of obstacles to all of us, especially as it regards the capital projects that involve maintaining the infrastructure for the future. So we're going to be confronted with some hard decisions. I do believe that the likelihood is that the hard decisions will keep us within the tax cap, and that's our goal, I think, as a board. But this is a just in case. Anyone else want to add
I
to
just
that?
want to add that this date, April 8th, is when we'll be presenting the budget. So give everybody a lot of time if you want to come out and see the budget for that night. You could also comment on the override if it's even necessary, but it's, gives you enough notice that you can plan if you're interested in what's going on with the budget. I'll also note that this is a practice that's done in a lot of other municipalities, and a lot of them don't end up overriding the 2% tax cap, but they do it as a just-in-case safety measurement, because if you go over the tax cap by 0.0000001%, you're over, and you would have had to have passed this in order for your budget to pass. So that's my
Any further comment?
2%, my 2% in.
We'd just like to note it's going to be 8 o'clock prevailing time, not
Alright.
7:30, because we've changed the hearing date.
Oh, right, 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Is that okay with the
Yes.
mover and the seconder?
Yes.
Any other comment? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed.
Okay. That passes 3-1. Number 50.
Is that me?
That's you.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the following donations towards the dreidel from the Marks and Dundas families totaling $60.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded it?
I
All in favor?
seconded
Okay.
it.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
just have a question. So did we lay out the money and they're reimbursing the village? or-
We're over, we're now,
We didn't lay it out, we got donations.
we're
to
funding,
support it. We only
we're
got
beyond
paid-
the expense, so.
I think I only got paid a week or so ago in the bill
Right.
went.
Oh, so the
We
bill
collected-
hasn't come?
The bill has, no.
It was in
Oh.
last
I know,
week's
I
check, right?
Okay,
So,
but so we're just holding them, we're just transferring this money over?
Yeah, we're keeping this money in
We're
an
transferring
escrow.
all the donations that we've gotten, no village taxpayer dollars, over, all the people that have donated, we're paying the bill for them. The
we will,
bill came to the
we will
village.
have a surplus.
Okay, but the village, I just want to make it clear that the people that donated, we're just, the money is just running through us. That's the only service that we're providing here, is that, we're,
Yeah, I mean.
right. I just want to make
Right.
that clear, because it appears to be, it could be misconstrued as a reimbursement to the village versus that the money is just running through us.
All right, we voted on that, did we? Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Number 51.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Superintendent of Recreation to rent the Recreation Center room subject to the terms and conditions of the Recreation Center facility use application.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do you want to describe this?
Sure. As you all know, the new recreation center that is over by Farrows Field on Marble Avenue, which is the old Pleasantville Ambulance Corps building, is open and has been running, and it's a great place. If you haven't been there, stop by and say hello. But there's a room with a capacity of 58, and we're renting it to the public for parties. Mostly the idea was for children's parties. And in order to do that, there's an agreement that has to, you have to undertake with the village that requires insurance and a whole mess of other things, but that's what this document is. So,
A question, when we discussed this last week, I thought that the hourly rate was different than what's on this application. Did that get changed?
yes, it did. We compared it to all of our competitive recreation centers that are being rented, and this was the more reasonable fee.
So why
for
don't you
us.
explain the fees so
The
people are...
fee is $65 an hour for the activity room, which includes a kitchen, which only has for the use of the kitchen. There's a $200 refundable deposit, and if you are serving beer or wine, serving is the key word, is a higher deductible, a refundable deposit, which is $350, and you have to also apply for a permit and many other things if you are serving alcohol.
All right, any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Was that an aye?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Number 52, Brian.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village clerk to notice a public hearing for Monday, April 8th, 2013, 8 p.m., Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, to hear comments as it pertains to the 2013-2014 tentative village budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
As mentioned, we'll post the draft budget March 20th, pleasantville-ny.gov, and there'll be further discussion of it at every meeting between now and the end of April. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 53, Colleen.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Department of Public Works to maintain and care for the perimeter trees at the Mount Pleasant Library, Bedford Road branch.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Colleen, you want to explain?
Sure. There is quite an array of trees on the property of the Bedford Road Library branch. In order to ensure that the care, the removal, the replacement of trees is in line with the village, it was determined that it would be best that our DPW take over the maintenance and care, which alleviates the library from having to make some decisions that they really weren't prepared to make. So all parties involved were very much on board. Mount Pleasant was very much in favor of this, so we'll be taking over the maintenance and care of just the trees.
Great.
Was it in my packet?
All those in favor?
Hold on.
We have an MIA mayor?
All those in
And we'll be
favor?
doing that, I should add, we'll be doing that we'll be
Right.
collecting a fee.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion
And
approved.
is there, Colleen, is there a
Oh,
process?
I'm sorry, it was behind it.
Yeah.
Behind the second one. I
Is
see.
there a process how that's going to happen? I mean,
It's stuff that we were talking about.
tell me how that happens. Does the library identify?
No, I mean, actually, our
Any part of
TBW
the-
guys have already been over, they handed over they had some estimates done, and they had an arborist come and look. All of that's been handed over to the DPW, and they'll be taking it over
And their
completely.
saws, they handed over
Yeah,
their
okay,
saws.
so here's my worry, since it happened across the street from me, that I wake up again to, to chainsaws, getting ready to take down all the trees. I would just, it seems to me that there should be some notice that there's going to be, destruction of trees
Well,
on
right.
the process. I mean, on the premises.
Well, since it will be our people doing that, I think you're in good shape.
Granted,
Right.
but
And I think what's different is our take on this is if we take a tree down, we put a tree up. So I understand
Okay,
what
no,
you're
I
saying about the
understood that.
work,
Right.
but I don't know if DBW could let us know every time you're going to, do that. That's something really Patty could probably answer, or Jeff better. I don't know if that's feasible, except to say that if we're doing a large amount of work, that we would let, maybe announce it here and let people
Yeah,
know.
we certainly would have that, but if we had a bigger plan in place there for re-landscaping, and that people would obviously notice, we would notice the neighbors as well.
right, that's what I would
Yeah, I
hope.
mean, this way they.
I mean, there's certain
And we need
neighbors-
to do that. There's screening that needs to be replaced in the back
Right.
of the library because it's just overgrown and it doesn't really function well as screening, and the trees are,
Functions perfectly well.
well, there's, yeah, there's.
But I think there's
know
a
that-
discussion to be had.
Just from talking when we
I
were
would
here
like to be part of that
2
discussion.
weeks ago.
I recuse myself as a trustee and
As a neighbor.
include myself as a neighbor, that's
But,
right.
2 weeks ago, I think we passed a resolution about the trees on Washington, because it was gonna be done, and, in a public area, Jeff let everybody know, and we made an announcement. I would assume on the library grounds, if work was going to be done, we would follow the same protocol.
Okay. I just think, in my experience, whenever you ask an arborist if a tree should come down or not, the state of liability in our country today, he's going to say, sure, let's take that down. And I'm, it's not exactly that I'm a tree hugger. You take down trees that are dangerous. I would just like to make sure that the process, in the process, we just don't have whole neighborhoods decimated by chainsaws. So,
Understood. Okay, we voted on that, did we not?
yes, we vote again.
Yes, no need to vote again. Resolution number 54.
Okay, this is a resolution regarding the sale of 359 Bedford Road, which is our old recreation center. And I've been told I have to read the whole thing, so be prepared. Long, complicated. The Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees resolution regarding sale of former library property. Whereas the Village of Pleasantville has entered into a contract of sale with McCormick General Contracting Corp. for the property located at 359 Bedford Road, Village of Pleasantville, Town of Mount Pleasant, which premises are commonly known as the Old Rec Center in the Village of Pleasantville. And whereas such property is designated on the Village of Pleasantville tax map as Block 2, Section 106.6, Lot 61, and whereas the village acquires title to the subject property by a deed from the Pleasantville Library Association to the village dated May 1, 1919, and recorded on June 12, 1919, in the Westchester County Clerk's Office at Liber 2200, page 29, and by a further deed to the Village of Pleasantville from Lewis Gullick Robinson, dated May 28, 1929, and recorded in the Westchester County Clerk's Office on June 8, 1929. Look, this is unbelievable. At Liber 2946, page 210, and whereas both deeds into the village indicate that the subject property shall be utilized for public library purposes, and whereas the property being sold by the village has not been utilized for public library purposes for a number of years, and the subject property is no longer required or needed for public library purposes. And whereas the village has determined that it is the public interest that the property be sold, and that the requirement that the property be used for a library purposes be extinguished. Therefore, be it resolved that the premises located at 359 Bedford Road, namely the Old Rec Center building, and previously thereto the Pleasantville Public Library, is no longer required or needed for public library purposes, and that in the public interest that the subject property be sold to McCormick General Contracting Corp., Inc., McCormick, with offices located at 101 Wynwood Avenue, Hawthorne, New York, 10532, pursuant to a contract of sale between the village and McCormick dated January 28, 2013, without the library purposes set forth in the 1919 and 1929 deeds to the Village of Pleasantville being deleted. And it is further resolved that a certified copy of the within resolution be transmitted to Flatrun Abstract LLC on behalf of Westcor Land Title Insurance Company.
Is there a second?
Second.
RSP Joel Sachs is here.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. When the village entered into a contract of sale to sell the old rec center building, I'm not sure that the people in the village were aware that the property was subject to a so-called reverter clause, meaning when the village acquired the property, they were two separate deeds, both indicating that the property had to be used for public library purposes. As I understand it, the property has not been utilized for library purposes for how many years, Patty?
About 50.
About
Yeah, more than 50 years.
Only about 50. So the title company has requested and is requiring that before the property can be conveyed to McCormick to redevelop the site, that the reverter clause has to be removed. Now, the Village Board of Trustees has prepared to adopt a resolution tonight which would express the fact that the property is no longer needed for library purposes and the reverter clause should be removed. However, the other entity that conveyed the property to the village back in the 20s, the Pleasantville Library Association, also would have to pass a resolution extinguishing the reverter clause. As I understand it, there is no such entity anymore now as the Pleasantville Library Association. It's now a Mount Pleasant Library Board or
It's a
district.
joint board, right. It supports
Joint
it.
board. So they are going to have to adopt their own resolution, and they will also have to prove to the satisfaction of the title insurance company that they are the successor in interest to the Pleasantville Library Association. So once these two resolutions are adopted by the boards and approved by the title company, we ought to be able to close within 30 days thereafter.
Great. So
Are they the official
Successor?
successor to
Successor.
them?
It
Because
appears to be in the minutes of the late 50s, 1960s, that that's what had happened. But it also appears that the Pleasantville Library Association folded up, maybe even before that time. And the village was responsible after the dedication of the property to maintain a public library. It's hard to find in the history where they've disappeared, but they're certainly not active. And they certainly never had title. It wasn't, an issue of
Right.
title. The village always had title. And provided that our minutes do demonstrate around 1965 that the library board at the time asked the village board to let the Recreation Commission take over the library building because they were being asked by a lot of different groups for access to the facility, to use the facility since the library wasn't using it anymore. They had their new place on Bedford Road, and they didn't want to having to deal with a number of community groups asking for use of the facility when they weren't in the position to chaperone that, supervise it, or to approve some of these things. So there is an indication in the minutes that it said, even, we expect this building is being turned over to the Recreation Department. They called it a commission at the time. So we're trying to piece that together, but the Pleasantville Library Association, there's references to it in the earlier part of the 20th century as filing with the Board of Regents their budget every year, because they were a bona fide library district. But then they disappeared.
I was asked by the attorney for the title company, do we have any indication when the Pleasantville Public Library ceased operating on that site?
Yes, we know
In
all
the
of that.
in the 60s?
early 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can demonstrate when we created the joint board and the joint library, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, it was a grand event, the opening of the new library and the moving of everything
Service.
over, so.
Right.
So,
It's an intermunicipal agreement. It wasn't a district.
have you communicated with the library board about what they need to do?
I have.
So
I
that's
spoke with
Yep.
Jim.
in the
Pat,
works.
Jim said that he
Yeah.
would expect that trustee Wagner would walk through it at the
Great.
next meeting, so we'll.
Which is next week.
Oh, good, okay,
Yeah.
so we'll prepare.
All right, so
Yeah,
we
I'm
would-
going to need to be in
Okay.
touch with them also, because they also need some type of proof that that board is the successor to the Library Association.
Some affidavit or something?
Yeah.
So Joel, can you provide the appropriate language? I
Yes.
assume it's boilerplate like
Yeah,
this.
but that's something that their own board will have to adopt.
Right, but you can provide the
Yes.
boilerplate language of what they
Yes.
need to adopt.
Yes.
So, All right, sounds good. Who knew? Again, for the benefit of those who may not have heard some previous meetings, we are under contract with McCormick Contracting to sell the old rec center. And they will restore the building. The sale requires that the building be protected. McCormick will redevelop it for residential purposes, restore the building and put it back on the tax rolls. A very happy result after a long effort to sell that building. That both protects it, hands it over to someone who's clearly well-positioned to do a great job on it, and restores it to a lively and economically productive future. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Number, what was once 56 is now 55, because we only need one resolution there, right?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor to sign the amended Police Benevolent Association agreement for years June 1, 2011 through May 31st, 2015 for dates.
Is there a,
Years.
Second.
is there a second? Patty, you want to describe the
I'd be happy to.
police
This
contract?
agreement is a successor agreement to the existing collective bargaining agreement that expired on May 31st, 2011. So we have 1 year retroactivity, and most of this fiscal year covered in this new agreement, which will carry us through May 31st, 2015. The changes are as follows. There were several. With respect to wages, the contract calls for retroactive wage increases of 2.5% effective June 1, 2010.
That being the point of the expiration of the previous agreement.
That's correct. 2.5% for June 1, 2012, 2% June 1, 2013, and 2% June 1, 2014. It also has a provision which we consider to be an incentive that would allow unused sick time at retirement to be converted into a cash equivalent for purposes of contributing toward health insurance contributions. Right now, an employee who retires can convert unused sick time into cash at a certain predetermined formula. We are expanding that option to allow them to also convert those days into payments toward health care contributions, because everybody does pay at retirement. We also have new provisions for arbitration with respect to 207C claims, which are job-related injury claims. We have a whole new procedure in this agreement, and we have crafted language to be very explicit with respect to Tier 6 employees that are enrolled in the police retirement system, with respect to their obligation to co-pay toward their retirement, toward their pension payments once, if they are enrolled in Tier 6, which is a new contributory plan for police officers. So 4 changes, they're rather substantive: wage increases, sick leave incentives that favor the employer, 207C provisions that are mutual in their effect but beneficial to the village, and Tier 6 contributory language that we had bargained for.
I thank you for that, and thank you, Patty. You have led this effort with, I think, a productive result. The police contract, like all union contracts, but the police contract in particular, is affected by a lot of regulations, as well as a rather clearly specified system for mediation, and then ultimately binding arbitration with the Public Employees Relations Board in Albany. So I also want to thank the Pleasantville PBA for, I think, coming to the table in a cooperative manner. Obviously, everybody has goals, and we haven't achieved all of ours. They haven't achieved all of theirs, and I suppose that's the definition of some sort of contract success. So happy to have this put to bed, especially since the expiration of the previous contract is now sometime in the past. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. So 57 is now 56, Colleen.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments: to transfer funds for over-budgeted accounts, $2,800 coming from police auto to police supplies, $10,000 coming from water contingency to water transmission supplies, $2,800 coming from water contingency to water transmission outside services, totaling $15,600.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any new business? I just wanted to mention that we began our evening in work session with a web presentation by our contract provider of accounting services. We use a system called Munis, which is a fairly widely adopted municipal accounting system, and they led us through a demonstration of some new modules that we, I think, are going to add to the service contract we currently have, which would help move us towards a much more paper-free workflow, and also, in the end, provide opportunities not only for streamlining what we do within Village Hall in terms of spending money and receiving it, but also down the line at some point, relatively soon, I hope, make it possible for constituents to not only pay their bills online, which they can now do at pleasantville-ny.gov, but also receive bills electronically through email and not have to stick with a paper-based system. So in the end, I think that will be a venture that's going to cost us roughly $20,000 all in to implement, but will and will certainly take a period of months to roll out all the various elements of it. But we've been pushing pretty hard to find ways to be more efficient and push ourselves closer to the 21st century. And I think this is a great example. So I thank Patty and I thank Mary Schwartz and Pam Hoffman in the finance office. Both of those people have embraced the idea of going paperless with great enthusiasm and are clearly going to be cheerleaders for it as we move forward. So
Can I say something?
please do.
Patty, I'm concerned about the dog park status. We got a memorandum from you in our packets that the dog park is closed.
Dog Park was closed last week when another panel fell off of that monopole.
Right.
And landed close to the park, so in the interest of public
It's
safety.
still closed?
We did close it, we locked it, put a notice on, we had a couple of inquiries. I expected it to open this week. They were, T-Mobile's contractors were to be on site this morning, however, they emailed this morning and said due to the softness of the ground, they couldn't put one of the lift trucks they needed to put there to get up to the top of the monopole today. So that I do expect them this week, if the ground dries out, that they'll be up there and they'll get this thing back together. But that's the only reason it is closed. It just, with all of the activity going on with the trucks and aerial booms and everything else, it was
Made my notes.
hard enough to keep dogs from being distracted. I don't want
Right.
anybody to get
No,
hurt.
it's a good idea. I just wonder how we prevent this from happening in the future with these guys.
Well, we, you know.
We've sent the required notices and
Right,
we've
seems
got
like
them-
they-
we've got
they-
them under notice of violation.
Right.
You know, we've,
Is there a
I
fine or
think they
something?
responded as quickly as we could. There are obligations they have under the lease with respect to site safety and site maintenance. So I don't necessarily know if the remedy is a fine. I think it may just be some other type of action with respect to the lease, but our attorney's looking at it right now.
Maybe
The
they-
good
maybe
news
they
is
can-
they have shown up, you know, they're doing what they're supposed to do to repair it.
Although it looks like you sent them the dangerous condition notice on February 5th
The first notice went out.
that they didn't respond to right away.
They did not.
I
They
think-
had a
I think-
subsequent notice.
which is
about
quite
2 weeks
amazing
later.
when you consider the level of danger associated with pieces falling off a cell tower.
Seems to me that we should find them what it costs us to be our ASPCA contribution every year. That would be a nice fine.
I don't think
He
we can
found
talk
a way.
publicly
It's
about
$47.98. We just went through that line tonight. in the budget.
Today.
I love it. I love the way you
Yeah.
think. I just don't think we should talk publicly about our strategy for our enforcement efforts.
I
But
support that.
yeah,
Given that we
But
have our
have
council
enforcement
here
efforts
tonight.
underway.
All right.
I will try to get $4,068.
I just thought that was a nice level
Yes.
of
Oh,
contribution.
you're
We,
funny. You notice that's in the budget again, I know you were.
We'll adjourn the public session, and then we will have a motion to go into executive session on matters of real estate. Is there a motion to adjourn the public meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to go into executive session on matters of real estate? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all, appreciate it. We have a work session in a week and our annual organizational meeting on Monday, April 1. Thank you.